Hi, folks. You're all very welcome to our DMI Game Day today, where we're going to be doing a bit of an AMA, Ask Me Anything in the realm of digital marketing. My name is Cathal Mullane. I'm the lead industry expert here at the Digital Marketing Institute. So I'd like to answer your questions. We've got a couple in already. We've a few in already, and I'll begin with those. But just a little bit about the format of today. It's really, if there's something on your mind, something in relation to work, something in relation to a particular campaign or challenge that you have in relation to digital marketing, shout it out. So we're able to look at all things from many different perspectives. I've been working in digital marketing for 16 years at this stage. There's probably a problem I haven't seen or indeed solved. So if there's something that you want to know a little bit more about, something specific to your own business, your client's business, shout it out, and let's see can we get through that. So there is a competition as well. So here at the DMI, we certainly like to keep on giving. You can win yourself a DMI track. So a track is a course specialization. It's about 7 or 8 hours long. It's in the realm of things like e-commerce, search, social media, email. There's a number of different disciplines, and you can choose which one you'd like to take. In order to enter this competition, there's a link in the description below this feed. So whether you're on YouTube or indeed on LinkedIn, there's a link within the description and you can enter the competition from there. The instructions for entering the competition are within that link too. It's fairly straightforward, and you can choose which discipline you'd like to specialize in. If you want, you can share it just for a little bit of additional kind of, entry points within the realm of this competition. So we'd certainly encourage people to share it. But let me begin by looking at one of our first questions. So I just have them over to my left. So please bear with me for a moment. Our first question in from Jennifer is, what is a buyer persona? So buyer personas are a very common buzzword within the world of digital marketing. Everyone talks about your persona. What does that mean? But what actually does it mean? It's basically an idealized view of your perfect customer. So who do you sell to? Who do you sell to? How do they buy? How do they research? How do they decide what works for them and how they need to kind of complete a task? This is all the elements that you would put in a buyer persona. You may or may not give them a name. So sometimes people name their buyer personas. Sometimes they just call them buyer persona 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Enter in a number of kind of key data points within your buyer persona, including things like the age and demographics of your audience, their motivations. This is a vitally important part of your buyer persona. And I'll give you an example why. So demographics is important, but it's not the most important aspect of a buyer persona, because demographics are non-motivators, in the sense that, like, people purchase things, people do take commercial actions because they're motivated to do so. Demographics is just an indication of your age and your gender. And I'll give you an example. So we've got two women. They're both age 25. So they've got the same demographics, same age, same gender. They both go to the gym. One's into yoga, the other's into bodybuilding. If you show the bodybuilding ad to the woman that's interested in yoga, she's less likely to respond to it. If you show a yoga ad to the bodybuilding lady, she's less likely to respond to that. There might be a woman who's 75 years old who's interested in yoga. She has more in common in terms of her motivation for going to a gym than the 25-year-old bodybuilder. So your starting point for any buyer persona is, why would they do business with me? What are they interested in? You can then sub-segment that by things like age and gender and demographics. What I'd also say in relation to buyer personas, because remember, they're just an idealized view of your customer, is how important are they to your business? I typically recommend people do a matrix in relation to this. So just a 4-quadrant matrix, and we've got buyer personas who are high value, buyer personas who are low value, buyer personas who are easy to reach, and buyer personas who are hard to reach. So we're able to prioritize those in the top right quadrant. That is people who are easy to reach and high value. I'm just going to open up an example here and I'll show you on screen for what this actually looks like. But essentially what we're trying to do is visualize the importance of our buyer personas. So just bear with me while I share my screen. I'm just going to share my screen now. And here we go. So we have our persona here. We have high value personas, low value personas, hard to reach personas, and easy to reach persona. This persona here in the top right quadrant is your bullseye persona, the young professional. They're easy to reach, meaning that it's not going to cost you a lot of money or a lot of effort to reach them online. And second of all, they're high value. They're going to spend a lot of money with your business. So these are the ones you want to prioritize. You've also got these other ones. And when people say to you, why are we not doing a lot of ads around young couples? You can show them a very visual matrix like this that will explain the value versus the difficulty in reaching them. And that will kind of relate to the overall effort reward ratio, which is how much effort are you putting in versus what you expect to get in return for that effort. And within the world of digital marketing, we're always trying to do the easy stuff that will generate most return for the business. So a buyer persona, just going back to that original question, is just an idealized view of your audience. I have a couple more questions which I'm just going to look at as well. We use buyer personas just to focus us. Everything that we do in digital marketing is about focus. Yes, we can do a million things, but focus in on who's buying from you and how valuable they are to your business, and then you'll get much better returns when you put that effort in the first place. Another question that I'm always getting in class as well, actually, is how do we create a content marketing strategy? So content marketing is typically the creative side of digital marketing. It's you're doing videos, you're doing blogs, you're doing written pieces, etc. One of the things we need to create content is inspiration. And one of the difficulties we face in terms of inspiration is creative blocks or writer's blocks and things like that. So this may sound a little bit uncreative, but if you can just follow me and just stay with me on this particular strategy. So to begin your content marketing strategy, one of the places you can look is Google. And you say, why would I look at Google? The reason is Google is the questions and answers machine. People are literally telling Google what they want. They tell Google what they want all the time. And we can see those questions. We can see what people are asking Google. We have a direct line to people's motivations, back to that buyer persona thing. So we have a direct line to the need states of our audience. They ask Google all kinds of questions around what they're trying to achieve. So for anyone who's ever done marketing in their career, there is what's called the buyer's decision-making process, which is identify needs or wants, search for solutions, evaluate alternatives, decide to purchase, and then do your post-purchase evaluation. That's marketing 101. That's if anyone's done marketing at school or university, that's what they'll teach you in terms of how buyers make a decision. The only one of those steps that is not featured in search marketing is identify a need or want. That is an internal realization that you want to do something, go somewhere, or buy something. Everything else is involved in search marketing. Search for alternatives, or search for solutions, evaluate alternatives, decide to purchase, and do your post-purchase evaluation are all part of search marketing. So when you want to know, what do my consumers want? Look at Google. Google will tell you, and one of the places that you can look in Google is the suggested searches. So again, I'm just going to share my screen here, and I'll just do a quick kind of example here. So let me share my screen in relation to Google, and this is just for content ideas. This just gives us ideas for how we can get, content for our website. So say we're interested in, I don't know, Irish whiskey. So we just type into Google here, something like Irish whiskey, and we've got all these kind of related searches here. That's a good starting point. Then we can add in an asterisk, and that will kind of give us different variations of that. So just start by looking at what are the related searches in relation to what Google suggests people are looking for. Why this is valuable is content marketing is all about understanding what do people need to see, read, or do to help them say yes to your business. If you can remember that, you're getting a gateway to their mind. What people are trying to make a decision. They're trying to decide, do I book with your airline? Do I buy a pizza? Do I buy your clothes? They're trying to come to a decision. What does your audience need to see, read, or do to help them take action? And these are the pertinent points that you need to consider when it comes to content marketing. When you're looking for ideas for the type of questions people are looking at to help them make decisions, go to Google, go to Moz, go to the Google Ads keyword planner, something like that, and get ideas for the types of questions that are burning in relation to people's decision-making process. Then what you can do is you can create a list of questions. These are the things people are looking for that help them make decisions in relation to your business. Then you can create the content that answers those questions. So when someone asks, how do I choose a dress? How do I, order a pizza? Whatever it is. When you give people the answers to these questions proactively, you've created that content. You fill your website with the content that people are looking for. You're more likely to show up. That's the key. So with content marketing, it's all about understanding, first of all, what's going to resonate. And you can look at things like your personas to get an idea for that. Second of all, you can say, well, what are the questions people are actually asking Google? Google's a gateway to people's minds. So what are the questions people are asking Google? And then fill your website, fill your social media streams, fill your kind of online presence with the content that people are actively looking for. They are literally telling Google, I want this stuff. I want this stuff. So when you know the questions they're asking, you can create the content that positions you as the answer to that question. Now pause. Think about that for an interaction. Someone has a question and you've created the content that positions you as the answer to that question. You are now the answer to their needs. That is an incredibly powerful interaction to have with any consumer, with any business. So in relation to content marketing and how do we do content marketing, my recommendation is we've looked a little bit about buyer personas. I would also look at Google. I would also look at Google as a means to get ideas for other questions that people are asking. And speaking of questions that people are asking, I'd encourage anyone on this stream to just pop a question in any of the comment sections, and that'll be passed on to me because I've got a couple through. But if you have something that you want to ask, certainly pop it into the chat. So let's take a look at our next question here. Apologies for a moment. So someone has asked, how do I set up e-commerce for social media? How do I set up e-commerce for social media? Now, before we start thinking about e-commerce for social media, let's think about how we use social media today versus say 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, I know myself, I was less likely to buy on social media. I wouldn't just click a link and buy something. I would maybe interact with a brand a little bit, ask a couple of questions, things like that. And when I was ready, I might do something like do a search, or I'd ring their phone line or whatever it was. But typically, I didn't make the purchase through social media. Now, with the pandemic, with different things like that, a lot of these kind of behaviors have changed over the past number of years, and certainly months. They've been accelerated. So social commerce is a massive growth area. Social commerce is where you buy on Facebook shops, on Instagram shopping, Pinterest, TikTok, anything like that, where these platforms have dedicated shopping areas, and you can see a product that's tagged in a post, and you can click through and buy it either within the platform itself or indeed on the company's website. So the starting point for that, let's start easy here. Let's start easy before we start going into more niche platforms like TikTok and Pinterest. I'd say start with, if you can, if this is where your audience is, with Facebook and Instagram. And you do that using a tool called Facebook Commerce Manager. So Facebook Commerce Manager is found in the Facebook Business Suite or Business Manager area. So depending on whether you have Facebook Business Suite or Facebook Business Manager, you can go to Facebook Commerce Manager, and there you can set up your shop and do all that. So let me just share my screen and I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm just going to go to Facebook Business Manager now, and just bear with me while it loads up, and I will just grab a account, and I'm going to share my screen now. As I said, any questions, just pop them in the chat. And also, anyone who wants to be in with a chance of winning that free 7-hour digital marketing specialist course from the DMI, just enter through the link within the description of either YouTube or LinkedIn, depending on where you're actually watching. So I'm just going to share my screen now, and let's just jump in here. So this is Facebook Business Manager here. This is a business manager. Up in the top right corner, we have this area called Facebook Commerce Manager. So when you set up your Facebook Business Manager, which is free, and then you load in your shop and you load in different things like that, you can set up or load in your page and your ad accounts and different things like that. You can set up a shop or a store for your company. From there, you're able to do things like add in catalogs, add in products. So you can set up your own Facebook shop in here, set up your own Instagram shop in here. It'll guide you through the process. Typically, and this is the kind of rule of thumb with everything, it doesn't take long to do. You just, kind of just take maybe an hour or two to just guide yourself through this process. Press the blue button here to add a shop. Choose what page is going to be associated with that shop, different things like that, how you're going to sell. So are you going to sell on Facebook and Instagram? Are you going to check out within the platform itself, or are you going to use an external platform like your website? So I'm going to, in this example, use my website to do. Otherwise, I can do Facebook and Instagram checkouts and Instagram Pay, but I'm going to do my own website. And there I can choose my page. The page is associated with this business manager. So maybe these guys. And then I can add in my business account. So my business manager account, I add in one here, or I can create a new one. So whatever that is, choose your business account. Then you add in your destination. So where you do business, is it the United States? Is it the United Kingdom? Is it Ireland? Is it France? Where do you do business? And then you put that in there. You do your preview. And then once your shop is set up, what you're able to do is start uploading your products to your product catalog. It doesn't take long. Literally, you could, if you gave yourself a bit of headspace, you could do this in 25 minutes. Take a little bit longer, certainly, if you want to, spend more time on it. But to quickly get a social media, social commerce strategy off the ground, we need to go to Facebook Business Manager, and then up in the top right corner, in Commerce Manager, and then guide yourself through the process of creating a shop, adding your Instagram and Facebook pages and all of that stuff. And then you'll be able to sell directly from the Facebook interface, tagging products and posts, different things like that. If you're using a tool like Shopify, there is a direct link between Shopify and Facebook Business Manager where you can just use a plugin or something. Similar for other tools like WooCommerce and Magento and all of that too. But if you're not using them, you can certainly start with Commerce Manager. And even if you are using them, you should use Commerce Manager to get an idea of the number of sales, the number of kind of product views, and different analytics associated with your social commerce strategy. Let me just come, as actually, if anyone has any questions for me on social commerce, personas, or indeed keyword research for content strategies, certainly reach out and I'll go a little bit further, because I'm trying to get through a number of questions here today. But if there's something you'd like me to go a little bit further, a little bit deeper into, certainly let me know. So let me just pull up my next question. What is the benefits of Google Analytics? The benefits of website analytics, any kind of website analytics tool. So I've worked in a lot of different organizations. I've worked in advertising agencies. I've worked in media houses. I've worked in a lot of different places. Website analytics is the kind of one-stop shop to understand where all the action happens. Remember, the majority of people's commercial actions will always happen on their website. As a digital marketer, we do a number of things. One of them is bring people to a website. So we spend a lot of time in the acquisition area of Google Analytics. We'll spend a lot of time figuring out what campaigns have driven people to the site, how much did they spend, how many leads did they get, different things like that. So Google Analytics is a great way of understanding the value of what we do now. You might use Adobe Analytics, you might use Woopra, you might use Kissmetrics, you might use Matomo. I'm not sure what you might use GA4, which is the new version of Google Analytics, which is still only rolling out, by the way, but it will become the dominant analytic tool in the next couple of years. But let's begin quickly by looking at the Google Analytics demo account as a means to understanding what Google Analytics is and how we can best use it. So I'm just going to share my screen again. Now, I hope this is a good Ask Me Anything, in the sense that, like, I'm showing you as much as I can, as quickly as I can, and I'm trying to go into enough detail that it does make sense. However, if you would like more detail, just reach out and let us know. And if there is something else outside of what I've already asked or kind of covered, certainly let us know. So this is the Google Analytics interface. This is the universal analytics interface. It's the current dominant analytics tool. GA4, which is Google Analytics 4, launched back in October 2020, is the new version of Google Analytics. It's not quite there in terms of its ubiquity as an analytics platform. The reason is a lot of digital marketers haven't gotten up to speed with using it yet. A lot of companies don't support it. Websites don't support it. A lot of e-commerce engines don't support it yet. So it's going to take a little bit of time before its widespread adoption makes it the dominant analytics tool in the market. The last time that there was a big analytics change was back in 2012. I was working in a marketing agency at the time, and we were all using classic analytics. Then they brought it universal analytics. It took broadly 2 or 3 years, if not 4 years, for some companies to migrate fully from classic analytics to universal analytics. So it was launched in 2012, but I don't really think it was the full kind of dominant analytic tool till about 2015-16. It takes a couple of years for these to be adopted for things like your out-of-the-box e-commerce engines like Shopify, Magento, Wix, Squarespace, WooCommerce, all of those to catch up and integrate naturally with GA4. So it's going to take a bit of time before GA4 becomes the main analytics player, but it will be soon. Now, what does that mean before I get on to this aspect of analytics? So what we should all be doing is running a GA4 and a universal analytics in parallel on the site. So all of my clients here all have a GA4 and they have a classic analytics. So every single one of my clients has a GA4 and a classic analytics because I'm running both in parallel. Why? Because what I'm doing is I'm collecting data. I'm collecting data from my GA4 while measuring and reporting on the data with universal analytics. So in 2 or 3 years' time, when everyone goes, oh God, we have to switch over to GA4, your data starts today. Your data starts today, not in 2026 or 25. So start collecting data now. So you're running both your analytics profiles in parallel. They won't duplicate their numbers, they're different tools, all of that stuff. But run both GA4 and universal analytics in parallel. So you're collecting data from today rather than collecting data from it when it becomes the industry standard in a couple of years' time. Effectively, you will have to, during that, because I remember it, in the crossover period between classic analytics and universal analytics, we were jumping between the two tools, going, oh yeah, we're looking back at 2014 data, download the spreadsheet, then looking at the more recent data in 2016 or 15 and downloading the spreadsheet and amalgamating spreadsheets together. We don't need to do that with this methodology. If you're using Google Tag Manager, if you're using whatever methodology you're doing to to get analytics on your site. Get GA4 and Universal Analytics on the site at the same time. Then you're collecting data from now. So when the transition does happen, you don't have to amalgamate these sheets. All of your stuff is set up, and you can use the tool that will give you, a lot of historical data rather than starting from, I've only got GA4 on my account since 2025. That's too late. You need to get it on there today. So the only action for GA4 is get it on your site right now. You can do other things when you get a bit more familiar with it, like pushing your events from Universal Analytics as goals into GA4 and Tag Manager and things like that. But for the most part, just get it collecting data now. Just get it collecting data now, and then you'll be able to have a far better look back window when it does become the dominant force. Because at the moment, we're still using this tool, and this is what I'm going to talk about now. So this is Universal Analytics. It's the dominant reporting tool in the website analytics world. We've got 4 main areas here, if you can see my mouse. We've got audience, who the people are; acquisition, how they got to your site; behavior, the content they looked at on your site; conversions, the valuable actions they took on your site. Why is this valuable? This is valuable because we want to know who visits our site. Who visits our site? So we can look at things like the location of our audience. So I'm just going into location here over my date range, and we can see that the majority of people are coming from the United States, a country of 250 million people plus whereabouts in the United States. So I click into the United States and I can see the different states. So California, New York, etc., etc. California is a region of 45 million people. Where in California? Okay, so we can see San Francisco, San Jose. If I sort by revenue here, I'm able to see my different revenue locations. Why is this important? What is the very first thing that you are asked when you get set up a Facebook campaign or a Google campaign? What location are you targeting? What location are you targeting? Target the locations where your customers are rather than targeting everywhere. Again, back to focus. Target the locations where your customers are. Get the most bang for your media buck, and that will give you a far better return on your investment. So in terms of analytics, what I always say is think about the channels you have to set up. So what do you usually ask? Things like their interests, their locations, maybe their demographics, things like that. All of this information is available in Google Analytics. Now, I'm going to put in a caveat here. So the location targeting is quite good. You can see what specifically the locations people are in who visited your site and how much they spent. And that might tell you where you can set up your campaigns to target. Things like demographics are a little bit hit and miss. So we do have age and gender in Google Analytics, but this is what's called inferred data. So this is based on their person's recent search history and their browsing history. Google reckons they are a 35-year-old man or a 76-year-old woman or something. It's not quite accurate, not as accurate as Facebook targeting, where you sign up with a profile and you, for the most part, give your correct age and gender. So the age and gender aspects of Google Analytics are a little bit hit and miss, but they're better than sticking your finger in the air and guessing. So when you have to create campaigns, think to yourself, well, I should be targeting my customers. And again, this goes back to buyer personas. Who are your customers? What are their age? What are their gender? What is their location? This is the type of information we build in. This is the type of information we can use real data, real commercial data to say, I should be targeting San Jose. I should be targeting people who are 25 to 35. I should be targeting well, we might target men and women equally, but that is typically the age group I should be targeting. 25 to 35 in San Jose would be my bullseye persona. So this is one of the things you can do with analytics. So again, we're always thinking to ourselves, as a digital marketer, I spend a lot of my time doing one of two things: making and running campaigns or reporting on campaigns. So use your reports to make better campaigns in the future. Your audience will give you an idea of who you can target when you're setting up your campaigns, because you're basing your targeting choices, the choices that you make within your Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn targeting are based on real data, not just feelings and guessing. The next thing is, now that I've launched my campaign, how is it actually doing? So audience is who the people are on your site. Acquisition is how they got there. In the all traffic report here, you'll be able to see you're after killing yourself putting a bunch of campaigns together. What did that actually do for you? And you're able to sort by revenue. So we have a lot of direct revenue here because this is a demo account from Google Analytics. So it's not quite as accurate as you would have like a properly functional Google Analytics account. This is a demonstration account. So, and you can sign up for the free demonstration account just by doing a Google search for Google Analytics demo account, and you'll get access to what I'm looking at, and you can play around with it. And don't be afraid, you can't break it. So just click everywhere and do what you need. But this gives you an idea of, you're after killing yourself doing a load of campaigns. What did I get in return for all of my efforts? And was it reflective of my targeting choices, and did I make the right choices? So this is where you can do your reporting. When you want to deep dive into it, you can look at things like your Google Ads and Search Console, which is your paid search and organic search. But also, you can see what is the type of content that people are looking at. So site content in analytics, the all pages report will show you the most viewed pages on your site. This is valuable because you can see, what are people interested in? I've done a bunch of keyword research. I've made a bunch of content. I filled my website with the content that, based on Google questions and what people are asking Google, I've positioned myself as the answer. So is that actually working? What is the content that is resonating most with people? And then you can finally look at your conversions. So why I did that abridged version is, there are a million reports in Google Analytics, but there's probably only 7 or 8 you actually should focus in on. And they are, in your audience area, you should look at your geo report to figure out, where are my audiences actually located? Second of all, your mobile report. What devices do people typically buy on? Is it predominantly mobile or is it predominantly desktop? The reason is, it goes back to campaign creation. You can target mobile only campaigns or desktop only campaigns in Facebook and Google and all that stuff. So prioritize the devices that people like to do business with you on. So if they typically buy off a desktop, target more desktop in your media weighting. Make this decision based on the data that you're seeing in your Google Analytics. So you're making decisions about your campaign creation based on the locations of your customers and the devices they typically use. You might then kind of pepper in a little bit of demographics. So there's 3 reports: geo, mobile, demographics. The next most important report would be something like your all traffic channels report. That will show you how all the different channels that you operate work together. Direct is people just going directly to your site, but paid search, display, affiliates, email, social media, what did they all do? So just to give yourself a summary view, if you want to deep dive, you can obviously go into source medium reports, but start with the channels report. Then the next most important report would be your site content. What is the actual content that people are looking at on your website? What is the most important content to them? Can I get any ideas for social media? If there's stuff on your website that people are always looking at, share it on social. Create something else on social. Repurpose it for social. Do a little bit more with it, but don't just kind of leave it there to languish. Use it. Use this information to make choices, to make decisions about content, about channels, about audiences. After we've looked at our content, we might want to look at things like our conversion paths. So within our multi-channel funnels report, we can look at things like our top conversion paths. Top conversion paths will show us the different steps that people typically take to make a purchase. So if I go back a little bit longer, we'll see this in a bit more detail. So let me just remove these goals. And we can see steps that people are typically taking to make a purchase. So we've got people are going paid search, then direct, then paid search 3 times. And we're seeing the typical journeys against each other, how all of our journeys kind of look. So we can figure out, we don't just do one channel, remember, we do lots of different channels. So how do our channels kind of work together to drive a sale or a conversion or whatever? So our multi-channel funnels report will show us the interaction between our channels so we can understand how paid search features in a typical search journey, or how, I don't know, other advertising referrals. There's a lot of paid search. There's organic search in here. So there's some organic search. You know, there's a journey: organic search, paid search, organic search, paid search, organic search referral, organic search finally competes for paid search and spent the grand sum of $13. That person really wanted to know what that $13 was going to get them. So these are some of the reports you'd use in Google Analytics. So the original question is, what is Google Analytics? Google Analytics is a tool that allows you to do 2 things. 1, report on campaigns that you have live, and 2, make choices for how you're going to set up your future or current or immediate campaigns. The reports that I would recommend people look at are in the audience area. Look at your geo report so you know the locations to target, the mobile report so you know the devices to prioritize, and get a little bit of information on demographics. Location, device, demographics. That will allow you to set up really specific focused Facebook, social media campaigns, Instagram campaigns, Twitter campaigns, LinkedIn campaigns, etc. Then you want to know what devices do they typically buy off. So we go down to mobile, and in mobile, in our overview area, devices gives you the list of all the different devices like Samsungs and all that stuff. But unless you're into apps, it doesn't actually matter. The majority of people are buying off a desktop device. If you do not change the device targeting on your Facebook or Google Ads or any of that stuff, the engine, meaning Google, Facebook, or whatever, decides where it's going to spend your money. It may spend your money on the device that your customers don't buy on. So it's better that you make the decision where the money is invested in. So in order to do that, you need to go to your mobile report and figure out, what is my priority device in terms of how people buy, and then target this device when it comes to your campaign setup. So you're focusing the right location and the right device. When you know that, you can really get the best bang for your buck when it comes to your campaigns. You know, you're not wasting money in places where people don't buy and on devices where people aren't comfortable buying. Like, I know my parents wouldn't buy off a mobile phone. You know, I know some people won't buy off a mobile phone if a product has a particular price threshold. For example, if you're trying to fly from London to New York and the flight costs £500 or £600, you might sit down in front of your desktop and type in and get your credit card out and do all that stuff, because you're thinking, whoa, £600, don't want to mess this up, don't want to get messed up with security going across, COVID certs and all of that stuff. So people are not going to buy on a mobile device, but the search engine or the social media platform will happily take your money for spending on that device. So you can make the decision to prioritize the devices that people typically buy off. And when you do that, you get a far more effective campaign. So we figure out our locations and our devices. When we know that, we have super focus, and we can start putting, the more money we put into these focus campaigns, the better our results will be. Then we can report on our results after the setup in the acquisition area, in places like all traffic, where we can look at our different channels working together. So one aspect of Google Analytics is campaign setup. The next aspect of Google Analytics is campaign reporting. And that's really what Google Analytics is for. So this is well, I suppose one of the most commonly used tools for me anyway, in relation to digital marketing. So just to remind people, you can win this track. You can win this free digital marketing course by just following the link in the description below and see how you get on. It's a free course, so you might as well that. So what What is the future of digital marketing? What is the future? So Danashari has asked me, what is the future of digital marketing? I always say to people, because now I'm based in Europe, so I always say to people to look eastward when they want to see what the future of digital marketing is. Look towards China and the Eastern markets, because they tend to be a lot more sophisticated in terms of their adoption of digital marketing. So what I'd say for the future of digital marketing is it's going to be around loyalty. And you find that a lot of people have loyalty apps on their phone. Their phone is the direct way to someone's kind of most personal device. People, like, I don't share my phone with anyone. I don't share my phone with anyone, so it's a very personalized space. Loyalty points, loyalty schemes in terms of retail purchases, whether it's scanning QR codes, whether it's scanning at checkouts or point of sale, allows people to build a relationship. One of the things they do in channels like WeChat. So WeChat is a platform based in China. When we download it outside of China, we have the kind of a watered down version of WeChat. But when you have a Chinese registered version of WeChat, you've got a whole heap of different aspects to this app. One of the things is games. So it's a little game like Mario or a little kind of mobile phone computer game. You play those games to get people, to encourage them to come back to the app, to where they can engage with a brand, because each brand has their own sub app within WeChat. So what WeChat is, it's a messaging app. It's a messaging app like WhatsApp or whatever Within WeChat itself, there are sub apps. So if I have an app, if I have an e-commerce store, I can upload my e-commerce store to WeChat. Then WeChat users can access my e-commerce store within the WeChat interface. I can then create a game. I can create a game that allows people to kind of collect coins and points and all of that stuff, and redeem those points, those scores for discounts off commercial activity with me, off holidays, off food, different things like that. So what does that mean? It means you can build loyalty, you can build repeat purchase, you can build an ecosystem where you're getting people to come back and engage with your brand, in a fun way. I remember reading this quote, and it was, we use social media to waste time enjoyably. We'd like to we're just wasting time, but we're doing it in an enjoyable way. So when you're playing games on WeChat, when you're playing games in loyalty apps, you're kind of just wasting the time. But all the time, you're engaging with a brand. All the time, you're building up points that you can redeem for a commercial action. So what I really see the future of digital marketing is in loyalty and retention. We're going to always spend time and money acquiring new customers. We'll use search, we'll use social, we'll use all these different channels, but what we want to do is retain that customer. And loyalty points have been around with supermarkets for decades, and supermarkets are incredibly successful at getting you to redeem the voucher to get, $10 off your next purchase, or £10 off your next purchase. Loyalty apps that have kind of in-app purchases, different things like that, I really see as the future, because one of the main challenges that digital has is the divide between online and offline. So I'm online with my phone, but I make my purchase in a Tesco or within a Walmart or something like that. How can I bridge the gap between the online interaction on social media to the offline final commercial activity? Phones, loyalty apps, QR codes, customer retention, all of that stuff is really where digital marketing is going, because the sophistication around e-commerce is quite advanced. And I think the main challenge now is to retain those customers and to get them to continue to purchase. What many people will reflect on the past 18 months is, oh my God, we're really able to efficiently sell to people online. We never thought we'd get here, but now we're selling to people online. Let's not squander this amazing opportunity that now that we have people online, we don't necessarily want them going back. to their traditional purchase habits. Let's retain them. We've got a golden opportunity right now to retain people who are after making the transition to online purchases. So that's really what I see as the future. Like, there'll be loads of other aspects of the future of digital marketing, like Internet of Things and cookieless tracking and all of that stuff. But these are nuances. The big thing I really see happening is loyalty apps and customer retention and creative ways to retain customers via mobile devices. That's really where I see things going. What are the latest trends and platform for digital for video marketing? Yeah, so it's all TikTok, isn't it? TikTok's great fun. It's algorithm driven, short, sharp acquisition. And what I mean by acquisition is attention acquisition. When I studied advertising, I started my career as a copywriter. I used to write TV ads and radio ads and print ads back in 2002. And then I got a job in Yahoo doing search marketing back in 2005. So I started off in creative advertising. And I was told in creative advertising is no one wants to see your stuff. No one wants to give you your attention. They don't want to give you their attention. So in order to get their attention, you have to give them something in return. So what I'm seeing with digital, like with video, is just amazingly creative, like 15 second long videos. When it comes to TikTok, what we need to be mindful of is watch time, and we need to be mindful of dwell time. So there are two important metrics. So how many people are watching your video? What is the total number of watches overall? And how many people kind of watch and dwell on that video? The way TikTok works is it shoots out a sample of your video to your followers. And if there's like 10% of your followers, if there's an uptake of, like a significant uptake, it will shoot out to a little bit more and a bit more. And that's how the algorithm works. It's a learning algorithm that sends out a sample, and based on the kind of the uptake of that initial interaction, you will be served more within the algorithm to people who fit the same profile as yourself. So what I'd say with video marketing, and it's hard to kind of, like, it's a bit like Vitali has asked a big question, like what's the kind of the trends? Well, it is all TikTok, and it is all dwell time, and it is all watch time are our metrics to be mindful of. So how can you, and we say it again and again and again, how can you capture someone's attention in the first 6 seconds, build on it in the next like 7 or 8 seconds, and then get your message across? So people have always put a kind of hard cut off. Oh, video should only be like 3 seconds long or 6 seconds long. It's not that. It's that you can capture the attention in 6 seconds. And once you've got that attention, you've given them something, and they will reward you with, kind of their blessing to watch the remainder of your video. So first, 6 seconds certainly important, but really it's your video doesn't have to be super short. It just has to kind of capture the attention in the first couple of seconds. Then they will watch your video afterwards. I would still though recommend that it's keep them a bit shorter. How effective is SEO automation? I'm not so sure. It's like I've used tools like InLinks for SEO, which will kind of automate the kind of linking structure within your website, and it's useful. So now, if you could follow me just for a moment, just think about Wikipedia. Wikipedia is like a spider web of stuff. It's like you land on one page. What was, when was Robin Williams born? When was Michael Jackson born? Who's Robert Downey Jr.? Who's Nikola Tesla? Whatever it is. And you've got all these links to other parts of the site. You do find some of the automation tools, like InLinks, they will create links to other part of your website from pages. And sometimes it's just a bit wacky. It's like everything. Automation is good, but it does need that kind of review stage to make sure it does work well. When it comes to marketing automation tools like HubSpot, like Marketo, like Eloqua, HubSpot kind of positions itself as an inbound marketing tool. It's inbound in the sense that like it helps with content creation and all of that stuff. But the automated aspect of HubSpot is very much a CRM. HubSpot is very much a customer relationship platform where someone submits a lead form, and then you can tag them as a certain persona. You can send them out a series of emails based on that persona type, and all that automation is brilliant, really good, really simple, really straightforward. When it comes to SEO automation, you do need to have a good bit more oversight because of the very nature of SEO changes all the time. With algorithm updates, with things like the Core Web Vitals requirements. For anyone who doesn't know what Core Web Vitals are, these are things around how your page looks and renders on different devices. So your load speed, things like, is your page flickering? Does it move off center? Different things like that. Is your website a good user experience? So when it comes to SEO automation, I would separate inbound marketing from SEO automation. So inbound marketing, in the sense, we've got Eloqua, Marketo, HubSpot, all of those things. They're inbound. Now, while SEO is also inbound, SEO does require the human touch to say, well, these are the keyword topics people are looking for. So this is the content I'm going to create. This is the way I'm going to format this content so it gets picked up by search engines. So that's what SEO is. What are people looking for? Create that content that answers these questions and format it in such a way to make it visible to search engines. So I'd say a bit of oversight on that SEO one. So Omar's after coming in. What's the best practice for a company who wants to expand into podcasting? So again, it's about repurposing content is a good starting point. Like, I always say to myself, if a company exists, it probably has a history of content it's created. So rather than sticking your finger up in the air and thinking, this is what I'm going to create, why not look at what are the kind of topics that your company operates in, and then do some keyword research around these subjects. And these can be the subjects of your podcasts. Look at content on your site that gets a lot of engagement. Repurpose this content as a podcast. Say there's a blog on your site, and it does quite well. Discuss the topic. Gets a lot of visits, gets a lot of repeat visits. It does quite well on social media. Look at it, reflect, and think to yourself, how can I turn this into a podcast discussion point? Podcasting is fairly straightforward to do in terms of setup. You need a microphone, you need a pop shield, you need these things to dampen the sound. But the main thing is you need a topic. One of the places I always recommend people look is, rather than just guessing what people actually want to hear or read about, see what they're looking for. And that's one of the ideas you could use to get started with podcasting. So start with Google, or ask your customers, what would you like us to talk about? So your topics are the main thing. If you're an agency and you want to position yourself as a podcasting specific agency, come up with a series of topics based on your own podcast, like how to podcast or something like that. Do a couple of Google searches for that, get some ideas for that, what people are looking for, and then maybe make a series of podcasts on that and use that as your area. How do I think influencer Alicia is asking, how will influencer marketing evolve? It's going to get hyper specific. So we have 4 categories of influencers. We've got mega influencers, that's like Will Smith and the people like that, like really big, like Lady Gaga, and then we've got macro influencers who are big influencers, but they may have grown up online. So really popular YouTubers are macro influencers. We've got micro influencers. Again, they grew up online, but they have a specialty. They have a specialty within a specific area. So someone like, the Minister for Health in Germany would be a macro influencer because he or she has a specific portfolio in relation to COVID or something. So, you've got these specialist micro influencers, and then we've got what's called nano influencers. And this is where it's getting interesting. And this is where it gets accessible to us as marketers. If you've got a small budget, you're not going to be able to afford Will Smith, Lady Gaga, or Kim Kardashian. But you might be able to afford do some stuff with some micro influencers or indeed some nano influencers. A nano influencer might be a community leader. It might be someone within a city that has particular sway, so influencer marketing is going to get down to the level of you might see that influencer not only on social media, but you might actually bump into them in the shops, so, and I know this sounds insane, but like that's really where it's going. It's getting hyper segmented, but that's great, because if you work in pharma, in healthcare, or in anything like that, or in technology, your influencers aren't always these mega celebrities. There's someone who wrote a certain type of code, someone who discovered, a certain part of, a genome. These are people who you can engage with. It doesn't necessarily have to be celebrities. They don't necessarily have to set your product on fire. They don't necessarily have to, smash your product up or do all the things that kind of, Insta celebs do and all that stuff. So influencer marketing, I think, is going to get super segmented and super kind of small scale. Isaac's asking, how could TikTok and upcoming channels influence the future of digital marketing? If I had the answer to that. So there's always so what this tells me is, okay, the original digital marketing platform was Alta Vista. Then that got blown out of the water by Yahoo. Then that got blown out of the water by Google. Then Google kind of set its place as a utility. People use Google for actionable purposes. Then Facebook came along and that disrupted the market. Then Twitter came along and that disrupted a portion of Facebook's market. So what the story of TikTok tells us is, whatever we learn about digital marketing, we're going to have to learn something new tomorrow. So what I'd recommend everyone to do always is, when the new thing comes out, learn it, because it may be useful, or it may be something that you can at least know enough about to say it's not going to be useful. There is going to be continual disruption within the marketplace, as devices, as broadband, as people kind of adopt new purchase patterns. So it's not necessarily TikTok, it's just disruption. It's just disruption is going to change how people use the internet. And as what are we on? Alphas are like the generation after Generation Z, because of course they started on Generation X, which didn't really have a lot of lifespan. So we Generation X, Y, Z, we have to start again. So not a lot of foresight went into that naming convention. So the alphas are up next, and God knows what they'll be doing. Pricing products is the most difficult. Mitchell saying pricing products is the most difficult. How do I conduct market research to position your product? So first of all, look at other people's websites first of all, and then compare things like how they talk about the product, how they build their brand, and ask yourself, would I pay that? And if I would pay that, why would I pay that? And that's something because they've given you the information to help you see, read, or do that you need to see, read, or do to help you take action. So always think that you can charge whatever you want when you give people the justification, first of all, for why they're charging it. One of the things we often forget is we're saying our product costs €899 or dollars, but why? Why does it cost that amount? And have I told the person why it's cost that amount? So when you look at your product and it costs whatever $60, have you told the person why it costs $60? The materials, the sustainability, how you treat your workers, whatever it is, But have you told them why? Because that's the information that they will kind of go, right, a little bit more expensive, but I'm happy to do it because it aligns to my values. So outside of kind of any market research, it's always challenge yourself to say, have I told my customer why this costs this amount? So guys, before we go, I don't know if we have any more questions. If we do, I will certainly answer it. But before I certainly do hope you enjoyed this. It was our first game day. We'll be doing more of these. So any questions you wanted to ask and didn't ask, we'll do it at the next one. Enter the competition. Everyone's in the running for a free track. So a free 7-hour course that will allow you to specialize in email, social media, e-commerce, search marketing, different things like that. There's a link in the description of this post. Click the link and you can enter the competition from there. So let me just go take a look at one or two more questions if you have enough time to stay with me, guys. So is there a difference in marketing one product from one culture to the other? Social media difference? Yes, so Khalid, absolutely does. And I'm going to give you a story that I was told back in 2002 when I was studying advertising. This was back in the days of print advertising and stuff like that. Irish Mist is a whiskey. Irish Mist is a whiskey, really popular whiskey in Ireland. They launched in the German market under the name Irish Mist. Mist is the German for rubbish. So they were trying to sell bottles of Irish whiskey that was called Irish Rubbish to Germans and trying to charge them like 50 Deutschmarks or whatever it was at the time, you know. So it's really important to understand the culture of and how people operate, how pricing operates. Within the European Union, for example, the euro sign comes at the end within the continental markets. Within Ireland, it comes at the start. Some countries use the decimal point to separate their currency. Some cultures use the comma. So it's really important to understand how people buy. I remember doing a lot of work in the United Arab Emirates many years ago. And I'm predominantly a search marketer and analyst, social media as well. But what I discovered was within that particular market, display marketing does very well. So banners and leaderboards and skyscrapers and all that does really well because people see the ad and then they click on it. It's very different within the Irish market. So, doing a little bit of research is essential because as you enter a market, you want to know how people talk, how people buy, what they talk about, what they don't talk about, and how you can interact with them in a meaningful way. So social media usage certainly does differ. I know for example, Malta, they don't use Twitter a lot. I know in Ireland, they use LinkedIn a lot for B2B. I know in the United Kingdom, it's still predominantly Facebook and Instagram. Then you do find TikTok is fairly ubiquitous across all countries, but we tend to find the differences a little bit in the older generations from millennials upwards. Everyone kind of pre-millennial is quite similar across different countries. So depending on your target audience segment, you will need to do your research. But just remember the Irish Mist story. How effective is SEM? Cordelia is asking how effective is SEM? So search engine marketing, very effective because think about it. When I want to buy something, I type into Google, buy a flight Dublin to New York, or order a pizza or whatever. I'm telling the search engine what I want. I am literally telling it what they want. So there's a whole market of people out there who are telling it exactly what you like. Who are looking for exactly what you sell. So when you know what they're looking for, you have two options. One, create the content that answers that question and fill your website with the content that answers that question. Then when they search, you show up as the answer. They read your content, they understand about your brand, and then they might do business with you. So that interaction is really powerful. That's organic search. It's all about filling your website with the content that people are looking for. So when people look, you're likely to show up. Like if you fill your website with stuff that people aren't looking for, no one's looking for that. So you're not going to show up. You can't be the answer. Then there's paid search, where you use Google's tool to say, look, if someone searches for these 5 or 10 or 50 keywords, put me in position 1. And every time someone clicks, I will pay you. So again, it's all about questions and answers. When it comes to search engine marketing, questions and answers. What are people asking? How can you be the answer? And that's what's going on. The questions are the keywords you choose. So what people are asking for, they're your keywords, and your answers are either content for SEO or ads for PPC. So it's all about question. So your first step with SEM is anticipate. What are the questions people are asking? And then ask yourself, these are the questions people are asking. How can I position myself as the answer to these questions? And then you can start kind of creating a relationship to do business. So Aaron's saying, I've seen some systems like Matterport. They utilize graphic data in housing and to allow realtors to show houses in digital format. This could be really good for digital stores, for visual display with interactive content? Is there a system for this? I don't know. Like, think about stores, and what I mean by stores is FMCG. So people are still a little bit functional when it comes to how they buy FMCG, which is fast moving consumer goods like groceries. Online, they just go, look, I need ketchup, I need onions, I need a bunch of potatoes, I need some rice. And they kind of click those things and they buy. And it's all very kind of transactional. When you're in a shop, you tend to kind of leave, you're there and you're buying your stuff. And there's always the things that catch your eye. Okay. So the challenge we would face with recreating an in-store FMCG experience is people might go, God, this is hard to use. I have to walk around the store, you literally have to, like an augmented reality, walk around the store. That's hard to do, and if you're trying to do that on a phone, it's difficult to do. So my feeling is it may not translate, because I don't think recreating the kind of, what would you say, experiential aspect of a shop is the same as recreating the experiential aspect of the apartment that you might buy. If you're going to drop $250,000 or $300,000 or $500,000 on an apartment, you might want to look around it, virtually, and kind of go, right, that's what it looks like. I get a feel for this. But when you're in a shop, you kind of just want to get in and get out, So I'm not sure that would really translate. But it might, you could have it. Well, if you were to do it, I'd recommend it as an option, not like rather than the main methodology. So your standard way, you can just click your products, or you can walk through the shop as well. Yvonne is asking, for non-profit, how can you explain the importance of content targeting to teammates? So it's always about reflection. Reflection is content should reflect what people are looking for. So when you're a non-profit, you're trying to get the ideas and your values across. You're UNICEF and you're trying to show the good work you do abroad. You are Women's Aid and you're trying to show what you do in terms of making kind of equality like a forefront for countries, and to kind of give women a bump up in difficult regions, etc. You're trying to get the importance across of what it is you do. So when I look at your brand, your non-profit, I think to myself, what are they into? What are they up to? There's always a certain level of suspicion. So what you need to do is be proactive with, these are the questions people typically ask about our organization. We need to address these proactively in our content and say, this is the good work we do. This is why our non-profit helps animals, helps people abroad, helps businesses and startup, whatever it is. So again, I always go back to that Google thing, questions and answers. These are the list of questions people have asked Google about our organization. How can we answer these questions in our content? And then they go, oh, so people are asking, so your teammates will go, people are asking these questions and our content answers it. So you're showing them questions and answers. So it's a problem and resolution kind of scenario. The problem is the question and the resolution is your content. And that's a simplified way of showing how the value of content. Mary's asking, how many layers deep do I go on with keyword lists? So I do a number of things with keyword lists, and this is in relation to organic search and paid search. When it comes to paid search, I will do fairly exhaustive keyword lists, maybe a couple of thousand keywords, and I'll launch my campaign. I'll organize my keywords into high volume keywords and low volume keywords. So the high volume keywords are in one campaign with a daily budget, and the low volume keywords are another campaign with another daily budget. The reason is, if you put high volume and low volume keywords in the same campaign with the same daily budget, those high volume, high search, get lots of searches, will steal all of the budget away from the low volume keywords. Those low volume keywords might only get searched, a couple of times a day or a month. But when they do, they drive lots of sales for you. So if the high volume keywords are stealing their budget, these really valuable keywords that are low volume never get to show. So keep high volume and low volume keywords in separate campaigns with separate budgets. That's my starting point. Then I'll launch the campaign for a couple of weeks, and I'll start kind of pulling out the keywords that have driven lots of traffic but no conversions or no assisted conversions, and I might pause then. Then I'll kind of start looking at, then after about 3 months, I'll do an entire account restructure where I'll say, these are all my high CPA, high cost per acquisition keywords. These are all my low cost per acquisition keywords. These are all my high conversion rate keywords. And I'll build a new campaign based on real data that have all my high conversion keywords in one campaign, all my high CPA keywords in another campaign, and all my low CPA keywords in another campaign. And I will give them different daily budgets. Why is this important? Your daily budget is how much you're handing over to Google each day. It's how much you're handing over to Google each day. So that's my starting point. How much am I willing to pay Google each day? So for high volume, for high conversion keywords, I'll spend lots of Google each day for that. For high CPA keywords, a little bit less. So I decide where the budget goes. And Mohammed's asked, and then how deep does the organic keyword list go? I'd only do maybe 5 or 10 keywords per content piece. So keyword research for organic search is you're doing a content piece. These are the questions people are looking for, and you have a kind of overall topic, and you create a page on your site about that topic. Then you've got 5 or 10 more keywords, and you just pepper them in the paragraphs. So before I get on to Mohammed's question, which I suppose will be our final question, so the way you do the organic search is your hierarchy is your page title is the most important aspect of your page. The next most important aspect of your page are your paragraphs, not your headers, your paragraphs. So the page title, number 1, then your paragraphs are number 2, and then your headers and different things like that are number 3, 4, and 5 in terms of priority about how you format the content. So you've created this content, now format it to be visible by search engines. Include your keywords in your title. Pepper your keywords throughout your paragraphs. So different keywords appear a number of times in your paragraphs, and therefore you're likely to show up for all of those different keywords. So one piece of content can show up for like 20 different keywords. All you've created is one page that can attract 40 different keyword types, whatever it is, But page title, then paragraphs, and just pepper them throughout that. So that's how I do my organic search. So that's the level I would go to, maybe 5 or 10 keywords for organic search. And then I've explained the methodology for paid search. It's more data driven, but I try to keep it to 15 keywords max per ad group in paid search. And our last question is, Mohammed is asking, how do you use artificial intelligence in digital marketing? So a lot of the platforms have artificial intelligence built into that platform. Now, what I mean by this is when you do Google ads or you do Facebook ads or all of that stuff, they've algorithms in the back end which are not exactly artificial intelligence in its strictest form. They're more machine learning. So they are learning algorithms. They will sample certain responses and adapt ads and show ads to other people based on the interaction with those responses. So the outcome is you are more likely to show your ads to people who are more likely to engage. Why does Facebook, why does Google do these really nice things for advertisers? The reality is they're going to get paid anyway. So they might as well give you a good experience. They might as well give you the best value for your media spend as they can, to use their technological know-how to get you more sales, get you more engagements, get you more assisted sales for social media or whatever it is. So artificial intelligence is built into the majority of platforms nowadays. Google's been around since 1998. It's been around since 1998, and it's been tracking us since 1998. So there's a huge repository of data to draw on and come up with, targeting types. Likewise, at Facebook, its advertising is around since probably 2009, 2010. So they have that's when Facebook ads kind of came out rather than Facebook itself. They have a lot of history in terms of profiling people and all of that stuff. So what they do is they go, well, we've all this history. Let's use our algorithms to do that. So it's already built in. The challenge I would say to everyone is don't hand over too much control to the engines, whether it's Facebook or Google or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever. Is your starting point with everything that you do is how much you handing over to them each day. How much are you giving them in terms of your daily Google spend, your daily Facebook spend, or whatever it is. So structure your campaigns to say, these are my high impact audiences on Facebook. These get a high budget. These are my low impact audience on Facebook. These get a low budget. These are my high impact keywords on Google. These get a high budget. These are my low impact keywords on Google. These get a lower budget. If you mash them all in together, they'll just spend your budget willy-nilly and you have less control over that focus. Remember, we spoke during our analytics segment around focus, the locations, the genders, the devices. It's all about focusing in on the locations, genders, and devices and things like that people typically use. So while AI does assist us with getting better results, our starting point should be, have I structured my campaign in such a way that my daily spend is being given to the high impact audience and high impact keywords. So before we go, thank you everyone for your time today. Thank you everyone for the questions. I hope I've answered them as thoroughly as I possibly can. I know this is like a super kind of whirlwind tour through digital marketing, but that is the idea of an Ask Me Anything. If there's something I haven't covered off, certainly come in the next one and we'll go through it again. And just to remind everyone, there is a competition. So you can win one of our 7-hour DMI tracts just by clicking the link in the description for the social media post, whether it's on LinkedIn, YouTube, or whatever. Click the link, share the post, enter the competition, choose your track, and maybe I'll be seeing you on one of those courses. So thank you all for your time today, and I'll be hopefully seeing you soon. So if there's anything else, just shout and let me know.